She pointed the gun. He smirked. What he said made her fall in love. She was the galaxy's top xenoanatomist. He was her test subject. She had the scalpel. He had the smirk. When Dr. Selene Cathera strapped down the only human captured, alive from the Terran frontier war, she expected disobedience, maybe defiance, but not flirtation. And definitely not what happened when she removed his shirt to begin the biological scans. He looked her dead in the eye and said, "Careful, Doc. I break hearts faster than restraints." She should have sedated him right there. Instead, her temperature spiked, and her hands didn't stop trembling. Dean Rourke, the human, was unlike anything she'd studied. He was tall, muscular, and full of confidence, completely out of place on a cold examination table deep within the sterile research core of the Virene Empire. Selene had studied over 200 species in her lifetime. None of them had ever caused a glitch in her vitals. Until now. She scanned him slowly, trying to focus. But the readings from his nervous system were strange. His heart rate was steady, but strong. His reproductive systems were unusually large and highly reactive. Too reactive. Her eyes widened slightly. She glanced at him. He was watching her, of course. "Your equipment always make women blush, or am I just lucky?" he asked with a grin. Selene turned sharply. "Be quiet." "Can't. Talking's one of my better features," he replied. "Second best according to some." She forced her eyes back to the monitor, but her tail coiled tight beneath her coat. Dean was different. Humans were supposed to be primitive, aggressive, but his behavior wasn't just bold, it was calculated and charming. When she approached him again with a fresh neural probe, her hand brushed his chest. It was hot, not in temperature, but in the way it made her feel. She pulled back quickly, but he caught her eyes. "Doc," he said gently, "you sure you're studying me or getting distracted?" Selene didn't answer. She stepped back, turned to the screen, and adjusted her gloves. She told herself it was just biological curiosity. Her people didn't pursue pleasure. Virene society believed in control, logic, purity of thought. But this human, he was chaos wrapped in muscle and wit. Later that evening, Selene reviewed his scans in her quarters, alone, over and over. His body adapted to their environment faster than predicted. His immune system was unlike anything on record, and his pheromonal signature was affecting. Her own hormonal response was elevated. She'd never seen her own system react this way. The door behind her slid open. She turned quickly. It was Dean. He'd escaped. "How did you—" "Security. Forgot to lock the secondary restraint. Or maybe I convinced them," he said casually, stepping inside like he belonged there. "You'll be punished," he shrugged. "You gonna turn me in? Or maybe you're just curious what else your test subject can do." Selene's fingers twitched. "You don't know what you're doing." "Oh, I do," he said, moving closer. "You want answers, Doc? Here's one. Your people think we're simple. But humans, we're made for connection. Skin, heat, sensation. All the things your species gave up." "I didn't give them up," she whispered, not even realizing she had spoken until it was too late. Their eyes met. There was silence. "I can go back to the table," he offered. "Or I can stay. Let you study the rest." Selene stepped forward before she could stop herself. Her hand touched his chest again, but this time she didn't pull away. "You're dangerous," she said. "I'm honest," he replied, voice low. "And right now you don't want to be a scientist, you just want to feel something real." She didn't argue. Her fingers moved across his skin slowly, like she was still gathering data, but her breathing told another story. So did the way her other hand came up, gently touching the side of his face. His eyes closed for a second. Then she kissed him. It wasn't planned. It wasn't protocol. But it was electric. Her body responded in ways she didn't know it could. His hands found her waist, hers tangled in his hair. The cold, clinical walls around them faded into warmth and sensation. Afterward, she sat beside him on the edge of her bed, silent, stunned. She couldn't even look at the data pad on the desk. Her people would call her compromised. Her career could be over. She should feel shame, but instead she looked at Dean and he smiled. Soft this time, without jokes. "I guess we're past the scalpel stage, huh?" he said. She laughed quietly. "Just don't make me regret this," she whispered. Dean reached out, brushed her cheek. "Doc, I think this is only the beginning," and somehow, she knew he was right. Dr. Selene Cathera did not sleep that night. She lay awake in the dim glow of her quarters. Dean stretched beside her, bare chest rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. Her fingers had traced every line of his body hours ago, but her thoughts still wandered across him like she was mapping new territory. What they did, it wasn't just physical, it was discovery. Dean Rourke had shown her something that no research ever could, how it felt to let go. But in the cold light of morning, reality hit hard. She stood at the mirror adjusting her collar, trying to smooth the evidence of passion from her expression. Her tail, usually still and proper, curled nervously around one leg. "Running away already?" Dean's voice came, from the bed still warm with sleep and mischief. "I'm due at the lab," she replied without turning. "You're supposed to be sedated." Dean swung his legs over the edge of the bed, completely unbothered by his lack of clothing, or the way she stared for half a second too long before dragging her eyes away. "They'll notice," she added, voice tightening. "Let them," he said, grabbing his pants. "Not like I was planning to stay chained forever. That's not how things work here." Dean stood, stepped behind her, and slid one hand gently around her waist. She didn't stop him. "You mean in your world," he murmured, lips near her ear, "where everything's measured, studied, sterilized." He kissed the edge of her neck, soft and slow. She shivered. "But guess what, Doc?" he continued. "Life doesn't care about your charts. Biology doesn't follow your rules." She turned suddenly, eyes blazing. This was a mistake. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "Sure. If mistakes make your heart race and your skin hum like static." She tried to speak. Failed. Dean stepped back, pulled on his shirt. "You can pretend all you want, Selene. But I saw it in your eyes last night. You weren't experimenting. You were alive." The door chimed before she could reply. "Security." "Dr. Cathera," came the voice of the senior warden. "The prisoner's cell shows an anomaly. Is he with you?" Selene froze. Dean raised an eyebrow. "Want me to hide under the bed like a teenager?" She almost smiled. Almost. But instead, she walked to the door, pressed the intercom. "The subject is under observation in private quarters," she said smoothly. "By my order. Research Directive 714 Beta." A long pause. Then, "Understood, Doctor?" Dean let out a low whistle. "You just lied to your own government." "I didn't lie," she said, straightening her coat. "I just omitted context." He grinned. "That's called foreplay on Earth. Stop talking. Can't help it, I'm a communicator." Selene moved toward the door, but before it opened, Dean caught her hand. "Wait. What happens now?" She didn't look back. "I run tests. You stay here. And us," she paused. "There is no us, Dean," but her voice wavered, and that was all the answer he needed. She left. Alone in her lab, Selene pulled up his data again. It was worse than she feared. Dean's physiology was changing, rapidly. The night they shared had triggered some kind of reaction, an accelerated, bonding response between human and Vereen DNA. Impossible, her training told her. But the screen said otherwise. His heart rate had synced with hers during sleep. Hormonal patterns were starting to mirror each other. And something deeper, something she couldn't classify yet, was forming in his spinal readings. Terran biofusion, she whispered. She ran it again. The results were clear. Dean Rourke wasn't just adapting to their environment. He was beginning to rewrite it. His DNA was folding Vereen genetic markers into itself, not rejecting them like every other subject in history. Humanity wasn't just compatible, it was dominant. Celine leaned back, stunned. If this got out, the council would never allow it to continue. Dean would be dissected, studied, maybe erased, and her career, over. But when she closed her eyes, all she could feel was his warmth, his voice, the way he had made her feel real. Like a person, not a protocol. She didn't know what scared her more, that he might be taken from her, or that she might let him go. Back in the lab, Dr. Selene Cathera didn't hear the door open, but she felt the shift in air pressure, a whisper of movement behind her. Dean, you always stare that hard at your monitors, or is this just my lucky day? His voice was light, but his eyes serious. She didn't turn. You should have stayed in my quarters. He stepped closer. You found something, didn't you? Celine finally looked at him, and this time she didn't hide her fear. You're changing, Dean. Your body, it's doing something we've never seen before. You're adapting to Vereen biology. That's not supposed to be possible. Is that a bad thing? He asked. It's forbidden, she snapped. Genetic blending. Like this, it terrifies my people. If the council learns what's happening inside you, they'll tear you apart just to understand why. Dean crossed his arms. So they'll treat me like every other species you've poked and prodded? Celine flinched. Sorry, he said, softer now. That wasn't fair, but she didn't disagree. I don't want to lose you, Dean. The words slipped out, more raw than she intended. Dean stepped closer, now just inches from her. Then don't. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, the lab lights turned red. Security lockdown. A voice echoed through the chamber. Emergency alert. Priority vessel approaching. Class Z biological alert. All non-military staff evacuate immediately. Celine's blood ran cold. No, that's a Cleaven ship. Dean blinked. Cleaven? That sounds friendly. It's not, she said. They're scavengers, genetic pirates. They pick up rare life forms, harvest what they want, and burn the rest. They must have intercepted your scan data from orbit. And they're coming for me. She nodded, moving quickly now, grabbing a small case from beneath her desk. We have to go, now. Dean helped her gather what she needed. But before they could move, the lab's upper monitor blinked on. Unauthorized broadcast override. A hideous, oily-looking alien appeared. One eye socket was metal, the other disturbingly human. Vereen facility, it hissed, voice bubbling like poison. We detect unstable hybrid genome. Surrender the anomaly and you will not be harmed. Dean glanced at Celine. So I'm the unstable anomaly now? Not helping, she muttered, fingers flying over the console to shut down external signals. But the Cleaven had already breached the outer perimeter. We have a ship, she said. Old prototype, not even on official records. It's buried in the mountain pass behind the base. Dean nodded. Let's go. They burst through the lower tunnels, alarms still screaming. Celine's claws tapped against the cold floor as they ran. Dean stayed close behind her, eyes constantly scanning. I've got questions, he said between breaths. Why do you even have a secret ship? In case the science ever became dangerous. Pretty sure that ship has sailed, Doc. They reached a blast door. Celine punched in the code. It hissed open to reveal a sleek silver vessel, compact, fast, and deadly. Dean whistled. Damn, you Vereens hide the good stuff. She motioned him inside. Get to the cockpit. I'll seal the rear. As she secured the hatch, Dean settled into the pilot's seat. He didn't understand half the controls, but muscle memory kicked in fast. Years in human combat ships had trained him well. Celine had dropped into the seat beside him. You ever flown without auto assist? He grinned. I've flown drunk in an asteroid field, I'll manage. The engines flared. Outside, Cleaven drones began descending. Too close. Hang on, Dean growled, and yanked the ship off the ground. They shot into the sky as plasma bolts lit up the horizon. Celine was slammed back against her seat. Dean's knuckles whitened around the yoke. What's our heading? he asked. Celine took a shaky breath. Nowhere the council can find us. And nowhere with a Cleveland signal net. Dean nodded. Good, because I've got no intention of dying before we finish what we started. She looked at him. You mean the escape? He smirked. I mean us, Doc. She should have told him to shut up. She should have reminded him that they were fugitives now, that her species had a zero-tolerance policy for interbreeding, and that any future they imagined would be hunted down by two empires. But instead, she reached over and took his hand. No gloves, no scanner, just skin. And for a brief moment, as they soared between stars, her tail relaxed, her pulse steadied, and she allowed herself one impossible truth. She wasn't running from something anymore. She was running toward it. They didn't jump to hyperspace right away. Instead, Celine directed Dean toward an uncharted system tucked behind a collapsing star cluster. No signals, no patrol routes. Just dead silence in the void. They dropped out of warp 3 hours later. Before them drifted a green-gray planet, cracked like old stone and surrounded by glittering rings of dust. It didn't look like much, but Celine's tone said otherwise. This world was erased from Vereen records, she said softly. Officially, it never existed. Dean arched a brow. Sounds like the perfect vacation spot. She ignored the joke. My mother used to tell me stories about a colony where Vereen scientists tried interspecies blending, not for war, for unity. It ended badly. The council buried it, and now we're going to dig it up. They landed in what remained of a research city. Vines had overgrown half the domes, and strange bioluminescent plants shimmered under a green sky. Celine moved with both caution and familiarity. As they stepped into the central lab, the doors hissed open, still powered after all this time. The air was thick with dust and ghosts. Celine ran a hand over a cracked console. They were close. Here, close to something beautiful and terrifying. Dean didn't touch anything, not yet. His body felt strange, heavy and light all at once. His skin tingled, like his nerves were hearing something the rest of him hadn't caught up to yet. I've felt weird since the scan, he admitted. Stronger, quicker. I even heal faster now. I thought it was adrenaline, but it's more. Celine was already scanning him again. Her eyes widened. Your cellular makeup, it's changed again. You're adapting beyond human limits. Your DNA, it's reading as partially Vereen now. Dean blinked. So, I'm one of you? Not exactly. She stepped back, her breath trembling. You're something new. He looked down at his hands, flexed his fingers. And you're not freaked out by that? She hesitated. No, she finally said. I'm terrified, but not of you. I'm terrified that if anyone finds you, they'll want to duplicate it, mass produce you, or dissect you. Dean stepped closer. I'd rather be kissed than cloned, personally. Celine rolled her eyes, but her smile betrayed her. Still, the fear lingered. They found an intact data core in the lab's deepest chamber. Inside it, video logs, old, grainy, but damning. A Vereen researcher, voice trembling, spoke directly to the camera. The human specimens showed enhanced bonding, rapid physiological merging. The council terminated the program when offspring showed signs of non-Vereen dominance. It's too dangerous, they said, but I think it's too powerful to ignore. Celine froze. They had hybrids decades ago. Dean leaned against the wall. And let me guess, they didn't look like you. She shook her head. They looked better. Suddenly, the screen flickered. A secondary file loaded on its own. It was labeled in human language. For the next one, Dean raised an eyebrow. That's not creepy at all. Inside the file was a scan, a genetic map, one labeled Human Vereen Compatibility Sample, Female Ovum, Viable. Male DNA, Dominant. Dean looked at Celine. She looked away. The silence stretched. He spoke first. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I don't know, she whispered. He stepped toward her. Because I've been feeling different since I know, she said, spinning to face him. I felt it too. After, something shifted. For a long moment they stood there, the weight of 1,000 implications hanging between them. He reached out, took her hand. Then we face it together, he said. I'm not even sure what it is, she whispered. Dean just smirked. That's never stopped us before. Outside, the sky deepened to violet. Unseen by either of them, an old sensor buried beneath the soil blinked to life, reactivated by the energy in Dean's body. And somewhere out in the stars, an old Virene warning buoy began to transmit. Unknown hybrid signature detected. Origin, planet Zareth. Class 9 response recommended. They didn't hear it, but soon, someone else would. And this time, it wouldn't be just scavengers. It would be the whole damn galaxy. Dean didn't sleep much that night. He paced the empty corridors of the dead research colony, one hand dragging along cracked metal walls, the other rubbing his chest, right where something inside him felt different. Not painful, just alive. Like something ancient had been lit up in his blood. Selene watched him from the lab doorway. She hadn't slept either. Her scans were all over the place. Her own body had started registering fluctuations, unfamiliar hormone levels, disrupted internal rhythms, even mild nausea. And worst of all, her scent had changed. She knew what that meant. The council had forbidden this kind of intermingling for one reason. It worked too well. Dean turned toward her, sweat clinging to his bare shoulders. You okay? I should ask you that, she replied, crossing her arms over her chest. Your body's accelerating again, bone density's up, heart rate down. That's not normal, Dean. He gave her a crooked smile. Maybe I'm evolving. She didn't smile back. Selene, he said, stepping close. Talk to me. What aren't you saying? Her jaw tightened. Then, I'm late. He blinked. Late for what? She exhaled, slowly. Dean, in Virene biology, pregnancy symptoms don't show for weeks, but I'm already displaying signs. And not just subtle ones. He froze. You mean, she said quietly. There's a possibility I'm carrying something. A child. Yours. Dean went silent. Not shocked, just processing. After a long pause, he whispered, I didn't even bring flowers. That finally cracked. Her. A laugh escaped her lips, sharp and soft all at once. But it didn't last. Because in the same moment, the base lights flickered, then dimmed, then turned red. Selene ran to the console. They found us. Dean didn't need to ask who they were. 3 ships had entered orbit, Virene, but black-painted, unregistered. Black ops, silent, dangerous, the kind that didn't come to ask questions. How long? He asked, already. Heading for the escape chamber. 10 minutes if we're lucky, less if they're serious. Dean glanced at her belly. Selene caught the look. We don't know anything for sure yet, she snapped, already prepping her data drives. But you feel it. She paused. Yes. They grabbed what they could and bolted for the hidden launch pad. The only ship left in the old bay was a rust bucket survey vessel barely holding together. I've flown worse, Dean muttered as they climbed in. You're not flying it, she snapped. I am, he blinked. Wow, didn't know I married a pilot. I'm not your wife, Dean smirked. Yet. The ship's engines groaned to life like a dying animal, but it moved. They blasted out of the atmosphere just as the stealth ships opened fire. Shields? Dean asked, grabbing the side handle as they rattled through turbulence. None, Selene grunted. We're not a warship. Just hold on. Behind them, the enemy ships gave chase. Fast, quiet, and merciless. But the old Virene research ship had one trick left. A hidden warp tunnel coiled beneath the planet's crust. Selene activated it. The stars blurred. They were gone, for now. In the silence of the post-jump drift, they finally exhaled. Dean looked over at her. If this baby's real, if this thing growing inside you is part me, what does that mean? Celine didn't answer at first. Then, it means you just broke 100,000 years of evolutionary isolation. It means the Vereen will want it, and the humans will fear it. Dean reached for her hand. They'll have to come through me first. She held his gaze. No, Dean. They'll have to come through us. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled by, silent, uncaring. But something new moved among them now. Something unplanned. Something forbidden. And very possibly, something divine. The warp jump left the ship limping. Alarms blinked red. Oxygen filters wheezed. One of the port stabilizers gave out completely with a sputtering snap. Dean knelt by a side panel using a plasma torch like a chef wields a knife. Tell me again why we're hiding in a gas cloud filled with electrical storms. Celine gritted her teeth as the ship jolted again. Because the Vereen sensors don't work in ion-choked atmospheres. And because you crashed my escape plan. Technically, the planet shot at us, Dean muttered, sealing another crack. She ignored that. She was too busy watching the vitals read out from the medical bay. Her vitals, and his, and the third set growing. Between them, the fetus had measurable neural activity now, faster than expected. Energy readings were spiking. Even in utero, the hybrid child was giving off frequencies Celine had never seen before. Not Vereen. Not human. Something older. Dean, she called, her voice steady but urgent. He stood and wiped his hands on his trousers. Yeah? Get in here. He entered, eyes scanning the screen. That's the baby? Selena nodded slowly. It's not just developing fast, it's adapting. Do you see this waveform? He leaned closer. Looks like interference. It's communication, she said, almost whispering. Not with us, with something else. Dean opened his mouth to speak. Then the ship jolted so hard it tossed him against the wall. Outside, space twisted. Something was dragging them out of drift space. Selene scrambled to the controls. This isn't a Vereen lock, it's something else. The forward screen lit up, and for a moment, both of them just stared. Floating before them was a massive vessel, ancient, half-grown from crystalline rock and half-forged in strange metals. It glowed softly like a living thing. No weapons, no signals, just silent authority. Then a voice filled the cockpit, not through speakers, through their minds. You carry the seed, Dean recoiled. The what now? Celine's knuckles went white on the controls. It's speaking, through a sub-quantum link, direct neural interface. That's impossible. Not impossible. Ancient, the voice replied. Your child calls to us, and we answer. The ship pulsed, and then it pulled them aboard. No tractor beam, no gravity field. One moment they were floating. The next, docked inside the giant living ship. Celine stood quickly, pulse racing. Dean, I don't like this. Dean was already grabbing a plasma pistol. Yeah, no argument here. The doors hissed open, and in walked a being like nothing either of them had ever seen. It was tall, slender, and semi-translucent, like glass filled with stars. It shimmered with colors that hurt the eyes and soothed the soul. It looked like the void given shape. It bowed. I am Elthine. We are the protectors of balance. We were created to monitor the forbidden unions, like the one you have made. Dean stepped in front of Celine, shielding her. If you're here to hurt her, Elthine raised a hand. No, we do not destroy, we warn. Celine narrowed her eyes. About what? The being turned to her. That what grows inside you is the fulfillment of a prophecy older than your species, a hybrid of warblood and empathy flesh. A child who may unite what was always divided or unravel everything. Dean laughed, half in disbelief. Wow, no pressure. Celine swallowed hard. Is it dangerous? Elthine tilted its glowing head. To those who fear change, yes. To you? Only if you try to hide it from what it's meant to be. The room pulsed with energy. Celine's hand went instinctively to her stomach. The glow under her skin intensified briefly. A flicker of light pulsed from her chest. Dean stepped back. What the hell was that? Elthine's voice softened. The child is beginning to awaken. Celine's knees buckled, but Dean caught her before she hit the floor. Her breathing slowed. The light faded. She opened her eyes, meeting Dean's gaze. I saw something, she whispered. A future, a world, ours, and our child, standing between two species. Dean held her tighter. Then we fight for that future. Elthine nodded once. We will guide you, for now. But forces gather. Both your peoples will fear what you carry. You must choose run forever or show them what love can become. The message hung in the air as the ship prepared to release them. Dean turned to Celine. So what now? She smiled faintly. We stop running. They emerged from hyperspace above neutral ground. Station Oris, an ancient diplomatic citadel, orbiting a dying red star. Once used for peace talks, now mostly abandoned. The perfect place for a confrontation no one could trace. But Dean knew they wouldn't stay hidden for long. Within hours, the sky was full of ships. On one side, a Vereen fleet, sleek, silent, and radiating icy menace. On the other, Terran cruisers, bristling with weapons, sensors locked on Selena's ship. And between them, floating just above the landing platform, stood the hybrid child's heartbeat, echoing through every scan, every scope, every terrified diplomat's feed. It was no longer a secret. Dean stepped off the ship first, weapon holstered but eyes burning. Celine followed, hand lightly on her belly, where a faint blue glow shimmered under her skin, like a star unborn. Across the platform, Vereen High Marshal Zira landed, flanked by guards in full bio-armor. A moment later, General Astor of the Terran, Navy stepped onto the deck, scarred, silver-haired, and fuming. Dean gave a tired wave. Guess this is the part where you both tell us we've broken the galaxy. Zira's voice was ice. You've done more than that, human. You've polluted our bloodline with your reckless urges. Astor sneered. And you've made my best soldier defect for a warm alien bed. Celine took a single step forward. No, she said. I didn't defect. I evolved. I chose love over orders. And this child? She turned, letting them see the light beneath her skin. This child is more than your fear. It's proof we were never so different. Zira raised a hand. Her guards aimed weapons. Astor did the same. Dean put himself between both sides and shouted, You're scared, I get it. But maybe it's time we stop being scared of what comes next. Neither general budged. That's when the sky split. The Elthine ship returned, silent, bright, towering above them like judgment itself. From its core descended the being known as Elthine, glowing brighter now, almost blinding. You seek war, it said, its voice in every mind. But you stand before the answer to your species' oldest division. The child is not a weapon, it is a bridge. If you strike now, you end yourselves. Zira hesitated. Astor flinched. Then the child inside Celine pulsed. Every scanner on every ship went dead. Weapons shorted, engines dimmed. The entire station went silent for a single heartbeat. Then Celine gasped. Dean caught her as she stumbled. Radiant light spilling from her chest. She clutched his hand. It's time. Now? Dean choked. You're giving birth now? The Elthine swept them both into a protective energy field. Around them, the red star above flared, and then dimmed as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Inside the field, time slowed, light twisted. And the first hybrid child was born. She was blue-skinned like her mother, with flecks of gold in her eyes like her father. And when she opened them, every being on that platform felt it. Peace. Not through submission, but understanding. Selene held the child in trembling arms. Dean wrapped them both in his. Zira took a step forward, stunned. Aster lowered his weapon first. "What's her name?" the general asked quietly. Dean looked to Selene. Selene whispered, "Nova." Zira blinked as if the word had meaning in her own tongue. "Nova means dawn," Dean said. "A beginning, not an end." No one fired. No one spoke. Just the heartbeat of something new echoing through the void. Later, the child's existence would be debated in councils, feared by some, worshipped by others, but none who witnessed that moment ever raised a weapon again. And for Dean and Selene, they disappeared, not into hiding, but into purpose. Together they raised Nova in the far reaches of unclaimed space, building not a fortress, but a home. One where Virine tech grew into Terran soil, one where laughter replaced fear, one where love became legacy. And in the nights when the stars blinked above them, Dean would hold Selene close, whispering into her ear, "Still think the scalpel beats the smirk?" She'd smile, the light of 1,000 futures in her eyes. "Let's just call it a tie." The end.